Hello and welcome to this video. In this video we're going to be talking about MTD Itsa, which stands for Making Tax Digital Income Tax Self-Assessment. Bit of a mouthful. But basically MTD Itsa is a new way of filing your self-assessment tax return. It's going to be really important for us going forward. Now it's not around just yet, but a beta is around and I've been fortunate enough to be invited along to that beta. Now I'm under a bit of NDA, so I can't tell you who I'm filing it with properly or show you any screens of me filing it, but what I can tell you is my experiences, and that's what today's video is all about. What's it like for me to be one of the first 100 people to file MTD Itsa in the UK? Let's go and find out. Hello, my name is Patrick. I'm a chartered accountant, a certified UK trader with a fancy new logo, that QuickBooks Chap on the internet, and head of accounts here at Boffix. Now in today's video we're going to be talking about how I filed for MTD Itsa and how it's been going for me so far. Before we jump into that, let's have a bit of a history lesson into exactly what MTD, Making Tax Digital, is all about. Let's have a look. So the first thing to do is talk about the HMRC roadmap, or how they're going to make sure that tax is going to become digital, making tax digital. Well, in April 2019, we had a MTD for VAT introduced for anyone above £85,000 turnover. In late 2020, they talked about bringing corporation tax into MTD, but it's not live quite yet. April 2022, MTD for phase 2 was brought in. Basically means mandated everyone who was VAT registered had to become MTD compliant. There was a HMRC online portal with that submission being decommissioned. So if you were filing the old way, then in November 2022, you're unable to do that going forward. And then looking forward, in April 2024, currently, it's up for discussion if that date's going to stay around, but MTD for income tax self-assessment and sole trader landlords is going to come into thing. Also, unincorporated partnership in April 2025. And then they think it's going to be around about 2026, but I wouldn't bet on it. They don't think MTD for corporation tax is going to come through. But what does this mean to you? So basically, if you're already filing your tax returns currently, what you're probably currently doing is you're logging into HMRC and you're filing one tax return. That tax return, which is due 31st of January each and every year, is supposed to consist of all the income you've received within a particular tax year. Remember your tax years? They start from the 6th of April, goes all the way to the 5th of April. Well, every time that 5th of April finishes, then you have a new tax return to complete by 31st of January. Now, if that's all about trying to look at what's happening now, well, what's changing? Well, basically, if you take that concept that currently you have one tax return to complete, but it's based on that full tax year, well, going forward, what MTD for Itsa is all about is taking that tax year, 5th of April to the 6th of April, and splitting it into quarters. And each of those quarters you will be required to file a tax return of sorts. It's all to be done digitally, hence making tax digital and utilising software. Now we've talked about it on this channel and we've also talked about it over on the other channel, Patrick the QuickBooks Chap, but it's all about making sure that you understand what's really going to be relevant for you. Well, the relevance is the fact that your one tax return that you are about to submit is now going to become 5 tax returns and potentially more, because you have to submit each of those 4 quarters plus an end of year submission. And if you have multiple income streams, like you're also a landlord, for example, then you're also going to have to file another 5 relating to that as well. So suddenly the amount of stuff you have to file is going to massively increase and you're going to be forced down using software as well. It's not all doom and gloom. There is some really tangible benefits from this, and we have done a whole video on why making tax digital shouldn't just be making tax digital, but making tax doable. But let's put away the whole politics of it all for now and put that to one side and just think about what the experience is going to be like. And that's what I've been lucky enough to go through. You see, I went through what's called the Making Tax Digital pilot. Think of it as a beta. And the idea then is I'm going to be testing that before everyone else does and to see if there's any kinks or issues or problems. Now, unfortunately, if I do find kinks and issues at this point in time, I'm not really allowed to talk about them. So I'm only going to be talking about my experience as a cat. But make sure you like, subscribe and everything else to this channel, because when I am allowed to talk about it, oh, I've got some stories to talk about. So let's first concentrate on what the experience has been like so far. And let's reverse all the way back to actually registering in the first place. Unfortunately, I can't show you the registration screen as such, but ultimately I can talk about what my experiences were. So to be able to register in the first place from MTD Itsa, I had to make sure how it was under a certain criteria. Those criteria are really quite narrow. And what that means is that only a very small section of the population are actually able to utilise and go into the pilot at this point in time. Which you can understand from making sure the software is working, but actually you can't understand for actually getting people to want to get involved in the beta to try and help push this forward. And in fact, in my circumstances, remember this is me, this is not me putting one of my clients forward, this is my own personal circumstances, then technically I wasn't 100% actually eligible for it. I had to change a few things in the background to ensure that I was able to take part in the beta. But once I was able to, and I got all those criteria stamped and I was ready to go, then it was just a case of signing up. And actually the signing up process wasn't too bad. It was very much making sure that I was who I say I was, so signing into my online portal, making sure I had a few credentials in place in terms of passports and stuff like that. And once I'd got all that done, I had to go through a series of questions to make sure I was legitimately eligible for this pilot. Once I got that out of the way, I was MTD Itsa approved and I was ready to go filing. So let's figure out exactly what that meant. So being approved the pilot meant that I was allowed to use software to file my tax return going forward. In fact, the whole phrase was, you have signed up to use software to send income tax updates. You can now use software to send income tax updates. Okay, great. Not sure why they tell me twice, but they did, that's good. And then it told me what happens now. Well, number one, if you're not already done so, find software that's compatible. And it gave me a list of compatible software that I could go to. Number two, you need to file quarterly updates using software. Basically, I was already late because I'd only started halfway through a tax year. So I had two periods ready, 6th of April to the 5th of April, which my deadline would have been 5th of August 2022. I had 6th of July to 5th of October, which my deadline would have been 5th of November 2022. And at the day of recording, I'd already missed both of those. And then I had two more updates coming up as well. I had 6th of October to the 5th of January, which I had to get in by 5th of February. And then I had the 6th of January to the 5th of April, which I had to make sure was in by the 5th of May. And basically that was my new criteria. Instead of having to file once every tax year after the tax year had finished, I now had to be making sure I was doing these quarterly updates. I had to be making sure it's through software, and I had to make sure that everything was sent was as accurate as it possibly could be. At this point, I needed to move towards my new software. Now, in fairness, the software that I moved to, or I wanted to utilise and get working for me, they didn't have MTD Itsa just ready to go within the platform. I had to jump through a few hoops to be able to activate it and to get it to work. But that one, you guys won't have to worry about. But the experience from here on in is exactly what you guys will see. What I want to do is show you some screens of what it looks like to get those filings in. So here's a screenshot of this QuickBooks Connect, which will show you what it looks like to prepare your update. As you can see here, this was the first quarter that was been done, and your turnover was brought in from the software, any other business income. Then all your expenses were put down into these boxes: cost of goods sales, wages, car, rent, phone, advertising, bank, irrecoverable debts, accountancy, depreciation, and other business expenses. And the idea here was all of that would come together, put your expenses in, and that will give you a total amount of income that you've earned for that particular quarter. And I had to do the same idea. So I got my income for those 2 quarters I've already missed, and I got my expenses, and I made sure they were all okay, and I went into the MTD Itsa side of things and I submitted those quarterly updates. There's a few things to note about this. First of all, the actual process of submitting it is really straightforward. Literally in the software, it was telling me I was already late, clicked a button, went through, updated it, sent it through, everyone's happy. But the other key thing is, the key word there is an update. So that first period that I put through, I submitted quite happily. The second period not only sent what was included in that second period, so that date range that we spoke about before, but also was including any updates from the previous period. So if you're going through this period and you add things later to an update, or you miss a particular element from one quarter to the next, then don't worry about it, because next time you send an update in, it's just going to update for whatever's done in the previous period. So it makes the whole process really straightforward. I was presented with a screen like we've got here, once I'd done that, with a to-do list of what I had to do to prepare myself to get ready. So in this case, I had to file a update, and also what was next. So what was going to be coming up due and how I was ready. Now these screens are subject to change. They're still in very early stages of the software, but it gives you an idea of what to expect with MTD Itsa. The key thing though is what extra you get from here. And as you can see with the software here, what it's telling me is what I owe based on the information I've sent in. So I'm going to get real-time information so I know what to put away in a savings account to be able to pay my tax bill when it comes due. And remember, because we're sending quarterly updates, that's going to be updated on a quarterly basis, which should eliminate all the surprises going forward. That part I really like about this beta. When I did send it, as I said before, it was dead straightforward. I pressed that send your update to HMRC and off to the races I was. Really straightforward solution. And the way this software was dealing with it, very similar to what I got on screen here, was that it was showing what I'd already submitted and if there's any adjustments or updates that have happened in that particular period. And the idea of the updates on a quarterly basis isn't to have individual quarters, but it's just that you're adding to that year bit by bit. So you send your first year in, then you send your second year in, it'll add to it, and then the third quarter will go in, it'll add to that, fourth quarter will go in, and so on and so forth, until you get to a full year. And then once you've done that first full year and you've put those quarters into place, then at that point, you're going to have the ability to be able to go in and show what else has happened using what's called an end of year submission. Now, I've not been able to do my end of year submission because the tax year is still in operation. But from what I can tell, from what I'm understanding, it's basically going to replace what we're used to with that SA 100, your self-assessment tax return you're doing these days, and you have to do it once a year. That end of year submission should be able to do it. So far in the beta, it's looking like it's going to be a very straightforward process. So that's a good thing. It's just going to be that you're going to have to be restricted to using software. So my advice is to get that software early. Don't forget, we've got our wonderful online store where you can get yourself some discounted software so that you can actually get yourself compliant for MTD Itsa and pay a lot less. So I think that's good for everyone. But also don't forget that we have to be mandated to using software, which also means you get benefits of using software as well. So it's going to be hopefully quicker for you, going to have you the opportunity to be able to get more data from it, all the good stuff that we talk about in a lot of our videos that we do on this channel. So don't forget to like and subscribe. The other good thing is it looks like your accountant will be able to do this for you as well. So if you have got an accountant, then talk to them about what MTD Itsa is going to mean to them. We've already started our process in our accounting firm, ready to file our tax returns for our clients, hence why I've put myself forward for this beta, because then I can be the one that gets it wrong before you do. But it's not going to be 100% plain sailing for everyone. You see, I've actually got a bit more of a complex situation. I've got my self-employed income and I've also got some rental income. So I'm not 100% sure how HMRC are going to accept the fact that I'm going to have to use two pieces of software. So for me alone, I potentially got to send 10 or 11 submissions by the end of the year to be compliant for MTD Itsa. And there's some confusion as to if I'm allowed to use multiple pieces of software. Do I have to use the same vendor? Can I use different licenses? Those are questions that we've yet to properly answer, and this is probably why the restrictions are currently available through HMRC's pilot. But so far so good. I was able to make sure that my updates have been put through, the ones I'd already missed. I was able to make sure they were put through, and if I make any adjustments to any of my numbers, I then get prompted to make further updates at any point. So I don't need to wait till next quarter to update it. I can update it at any point I want to. I'm now in a better position where I know what my tax liability is going to be, probably earlier than I've ever known it before in my whole entire life. So that's going to give me some confidence into what I need to put away and save for this tax bill. I still have many questions. What do I do with depreciation? What do I do with dividends? What do I do with my limited company? How does that interact with it? There's lots of questions I still need to get answers for and questions done for, but I think it's a great starting point. And if you want those sort of questions answered, then don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, because that's where we're going to be making sure that you're up to date with everything we're doing. Let us be the guinea pigs for you when it comes to making tax digital. So my name's been Aaron Patrick. Any questions, let us know below. Is there anything you want me to be asking while I'm on this pilot? This could be your perfect opportunity for you to get those questions answered. Ask them in the comments below and we'll make sure we pass these over. This video has obviously been a pleasure to do for you. I'm number 61, I think it was, in the MTD for its process, and hopefully we can make sure that us people can get things absolutely spot on, ready for when you have to make your first filing. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to use the comment section below to let us know if there's any questions, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.